7 News at 5 starts right now.
He just started a job. He did good in school. If someone needed a shirt off his back, he would give it to him.
A mother mourns the loss of her 17-year-old son, killed in a Brighton park.
I just want justice for my son.
Family members say the teen was threatened over social media for months.
I would call, I would send him screenshots of what my son would send me. They didn't do anything.
Colorado families out thousands of dollars for a flight change they didn't know was happening.
I said, well, that's insane. Like, we have to change this back. And they said, I'm sorry, you're out of luck.
Well, at least they got to hoist the cup.
The Avs say goodbye to some key players, but they're holding on to some key others.
And first at 5, we have some breaking news. San Luis Valley DA Alonso Payne says he will now resign. Today, Payne sent his resignation letter to Governor Jared Polis. The governor has then appointed Attorney General Phil Weiser as the interim DA for the 12th Judicial District. Now, just yesterday, it was announced that an independent monitor would oversee Payne's office after finding he violated victims' rights.
Denver 7 investigates found those included questionable plea deals, failures to follow up with crime victims. DA Payne says his resignation would, quote, spare the cost and divisiveness of a recall election. We'll have a lot more of this breaking resignation for you tonight on Denver 7 News at 6. Good evening. Glad you're with us on Denver 7 News at 5. A busy night tonight. I'm Shannon Ogden.
I'm Ann Trujillo, and we begin tonight with a mother in Brighton wanting justice for her 17-year-old son.
Josiah Gonzalez was shot and killed last night in Brighton's Ken Mitchell Park, and that is where we find Denver 7's Bayan Wang.
And Bayan, family members, they just want justice, and they want police to find whoever killed Josiah.
Yeah, guys, that's absolutely right. This is just so heartbreaking. We're talking about a 17-year-old victim here. I mean, it hasn't even been 24 hours since the shooting happened, so you could imagine just how much pain the family is in right now. I want to step out of the way really quick so you can see those benches there in the distance. Well, that's where the Brighton Police Department say the shooting happened. Witnesses first heard an argument, and then they heard gunshots.
It's a call Ashley Huerta will remember for the rest of her life. A call no parent, not anyone, ever expects.
Even called me. They just said I needed to get down to the park. And I already knew something bad in my gut was gonna. I just knew.
Her son,
And he just started a job.
Josiah Gonzalez,
He was a good kid.
shot to death at 17 years old.
He would help anybody that needed help. And if someone needed a shirt off his back, he would give it to him. He would like to go out. He would like to try new things, just be around, different people, and just be a little gamer. He's a little homebody.
According to Brighton police, witnesses heard gunshots following an argument shortly before 9:30 last night.
Early reports showed that there was witnesses on scene performing CPR, and as our officers arrived on scene, they in fact found a 17-year-old male had been fatally shot and wounded.
Huerta says Josiah received several threats on social media in the months leading up to the shooting. Threats she says she's reported to the police and her son's school.
They would send him pictures of guns to his phone and ask him where he's at, and he would just ignore it. He wasn't worried about it. He wasn't scared. He didn't think that they would do anything.
Brighton police said they were unable to provide details on the threats, but they did confirm that the suspect may have known Josiah.
I just don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Huerta pleading with the suspect to come forward.
Just want you guys to come forward and just tell me why. What did my son do to you guys so wrong that you guys ought to take his life?
Now in the far distance there, you'll see that sign saying smile for the camera. Well, we asked the Brighton Police Department about this, asking if there is surveillance footage here that they are sorting through, and they were not able to confirm that. They said they have cameras at most of their city parks, but they have not confirmed whether they have surveillance here. And that's why right now they're really asking anybody with information, any of the homes in the area that may have some kind of Ring video, to share it with them, to call the number you see on your screen. That belongs to the Brighton Police Department. Now, at last report, the police have not confirmed whether anyone has been detained or arrested. We're live in Brighton. Bayan Wang, Denver 7.
Yeah, that is just heartbreaking, Bayan. Thank you. Eastbound I-70, it is still closed tonight in Glenwood Canyon as crews work to clean up a semi-truck that crashed last week. Now, the eastbound lanes were expected to open by 4 o'clock this afternoon. Clearly, you see they've not reopened, so we have reached out to CDOT to try and find out when the eastbound lanes will open again. A former elections manager for Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters was indicted for allegedly tampering with voting equipment. Sandra Brown turned herself in on Monday on multiple felony charges. They include suspicion of conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation and attempting to influence a public servant. Tina Peters and her chief deputy, Belinda Knisely, are being prosecuted for allegedly tampering with election equipment. Peters also just lost an election bid. She was running to be Secretary of State.
Inflation is now at its highest rate in 40 years. The Consumer Price Index rose 9.1% in June compared to last year, an increase from the 8.6% in May. And when adjusted for inflation, workers' hourly wages fell 1% in June. They're down 3.6% from a year ago. Also, prices for food rose 12.2% year over year in June. Housing up 5.6%. Gasoline increased 11.2%.
And President Biden is expected to discuss gas prices this week while visiting Saudi Arabia on his first trip to the Middle East as commander-in-chief. And today, he began his trip in Israel, where he reiterated his support for a two-state solution between the Palestinians and Israelis. He also visited Israel's official memorial to the victims of the Holocaust. The president also spoke to 2 Holocaust survivors after participating in a wreath-laying ceremony.
Well, the FDA has authorized a new COVID shot. Novavax was developed as a protein-based vaccine which uses protein fragments to teach the body's immune system how to fight off COVID. President Biden has already ordered 3.2 million doses of this new vaccine. Now, it still needs final approval by the CDC and then approval of the CDC director.
Uber is being sued by more than 500 women who claim they were assaulted by drivers for the platform. The San Francisco-based law firm representing the women say they are investigating at least 150 more cases against the company. Earlier this month, Uber reported 141 incidents of rape and nearly 1,000 incidents of sexual assault from people who used Uber in 2020. Now, Uber has not put out data for 2021 and has not put out a statement about this new lawsuit. A Colorado family says their vacation is now a travel nightmare.
Sam Taussig says American Airlines changed his family's flight to another country without his knowledge or consent.
Denver 7's Russell Haythorne spoke with the family and the airline that says it tried alerting the family to the change.
Bound for the Caribbean in a few days, Denver resident Sam Taussig thought he was just being overly cautious.
July 4th, I was being meticulous, and I logged into the American Airlines app to look at our seating arrangements. I wanted to make sure that we were all sitting together.
Not only were the 9 of them traveling as a big family, not sitting together, they weren't even on the same American Airlines return flight they had booked way back in January.
I noticed we were flying out of a different country. We were flying out of St. Lucia instead of St. Vincent. And I thought that was really strange. It must have been a mistake. The customer service agent said, yes, I'm sorry, sir, you're in an overbooked situation, and we have moved your flight from St. Vincent to St. Lucia, which is about 100 miles away, the way the crows flies, 5 islands north. And I said, well, that's insane. Like, we have to change this back. This is not acceptable.
Taussig says it got worse from there when he tried to rebook.
And then they're going to charge us exorbitant change fees and reticketing fees and split reservation fees, totaling almost $30,000 to bring us home a week later.
Travel website Scott's Cheap Flights, based here in Denver, says there are things you should know as an airline passenger.
You're entitled to that full cash refund if the airline cancels or significantly changes your flight. And that would, I would say, departing from a different country would constitute a significant change.
American Airlines responded to Denver 7 saying it did send Taussig an email back in April about the flight change and offered the family a full refund or a change at that time, but the customer took no action. Taussig has now filed a 19-page complaint with American Airlines and has rebooked out of a third country, Barbados. But his party of 9 will have to take a private island hopper from St. Vincent to Barbados, costing them an additional $2,000.
I think it's shameful for American Airlines to obfuscate a country change, to bury it in an opaque email. American Airlines should really not put this burden on, American families that just want to get out of town. Delta offered passengers $10,000 to change their flight, and American Airlines tried to charge me almost $30,000 to change mine.
Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.
And American Airlines reminds all passengers frequently check your email before a flight. Airlines can send a lot of these emails leading up to a trip, and one of those could include a flight change.
All right, the Colorado Avalanche, they are making moves in free agency.
So today the team secured plenty of the players from the last season Stanley Cup championship team. The Denver 7's Broncos insider. Today the Avs insider, Troy Rank, is live in the studio to tell us about the moves.
And Troy, we're also saying goodbye to some of the Avs players that we have grown to love.
Yes, guys, the opening of NHL free agency featured a tsunami of activity. Raise your hand if you didn't get a contract today. I'm pretty sure the Avs mascot, Bernie the St. Bernard, he received a multi-year deal for dog biscuits this morning. Okay, seriously, let's talk about who is staying with the Avs. Darren Helm, a grinder who really does all the small things, isn't going anywhere. The Avs kept him on a one-year deal. He is most remembered for his series-clinching goal against the Blues in the conference semis. He also led the NHL in hits in the playoffs. Josh Manson, he is also staying put. Manson was a trade deadline acquisition. He added physicality and size to that back line and quickly became a veteran leader. And the biggest signing today, the Avs retained Arturi Lehkonen on a 5-year deal for $4.5 million per season. The 27-year-old set a career high in points. Last year, he scored 8 goals in the playoffs, including the one that sent Colorado to the Stanley Cup final. But hey, you can't keep everyone. As expected, goalie Darcy Kuemper is moving on. Kuemper landed a 5-year, $26 million deal from Washington. It includes a partial no-trade clause. Good for Kuemper. We wish him well. Another strong player the Avs lost, Andrei Burakovsky, this afternoon, signed a 5-year deal with the Kraken. But hey, Nazem Kadri remains in play in free agency. The Avs have shown some interest, but Kadri likely priced himself off this roster because of his great season. Look for Calgary and Detroit to be potential fits for the star. I'm live in the studio. Troy Rank, Denver 7 Sports.
I think it sets a very bad precedent in Colorado, where it is the goal of one jurisdiction to export its homeless to others.
Aurora's mayor has a problem with how Douglas County is handling people who live in the streets.
Douglas County is now offering a new proposal to settle their differences.
Just in this facility alone, we have seen a doubling of services, a 100% increase.
A real scorcher out there today. Coming up, I'll let you know when a cold front might bring us some relief.
A new 150-acre Pepsi facility is coming to Denver, and it will bring hundreds of jobs along with it.
And Senator Michael Bennet is hoping to expand Denver's successful STAR program nationwide.
Colorado offers a model for the country to take on the rise in crime in a smart and thoughtful way.